All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that is actually the case. By the way, to the Brew Joe, no, dinner was finalized earlier. I'm going to be making a creamy asparagus soup, actually. Asparagus, very, very expensive in the Netherlands, by the way, when it's out of season. It's a decadent meal. Might as well just buy a fucking ribeye for that price, but it'll be tasty anyway. I've never made it before. I got it earlier. I got it into my head. Asparagus would feel good on a day like today. Nice creamy soup. Nice and hot and steamy. With herby bread on the side, of course. Heavily buttered. I make the best herby bread that I've ever had. We got a lot of news to talk about today. First, let me make sure that everything's working here. Are we live on Rumble? Yes, we are live on Rumble. Let's see here. By the way, I'm not late. I'm actually a half an hour early because after this stream, I will be debating Jessica Burbank on BTR, Break the Rules with Lev. I've already shared that out cross-platform, so just go to my Twitter or you can go to the YouTube homepage there in the community tab or whatever the hell it is that nobody uses at this point. I will be debating the topic of unions. Jessica Burbank is a member of the Young Turks, actually, so it'll be probably pretty funny. So I'll need some extra clankers over there. I need to see some audience support. Throw up your spoons and show your loyalty. We don't have loyalty oaths in Clankdom, but we expect people to clank anyway. By the way, it looks like nuclear weapons being dropped on Turkey and Pixel Planet. There's a link pinned at the top of chat and also in the description on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble. And you can pixel along with us as you clank your morning coffee. We are sinking Turkey into the ocean in retribution for their various crimes against their neighbors, as well as against Clankdom. Apparently, there's another Turkish streamer that intends to attack Italy tonight, later on, like in, I don't know, like 10 hours or something. Intends to invade Italy. But the Italians have been invading Tunisia and southern France, so I don't know what's happening over there. We started a world war on Pixel Planet. You can also help the Greeks rebuild there. Please don't sink the islands of the Aegean. Those they intend to eventually pixel those all in their medium blue. The light blue of the ocean should be reserved for the area around the middle of Turkey, which is already half gone. Roscoe P. Coltrane, nice to see you early. Yes, plenty of good shit to talk about today. Rumble cut off the RT live stream, says Alma Bona over on Rumble. They banned RT. They might have gotten a legal query with regards to it. I know that RT is blocked in the European Union as far as its Twitter handle, which I find hilarious. You're not allowed to get any information that countermands the official response of the NATO countries. Anyway, we've got major news here. We'll start right off. President Biden U-turns on student debt relief for millions after lawsuit filings and public backlash over huge cost to taxpayers. Wait till you hear this. The Department of Education announced the change on Thursday. Biden admin announced plans to provide up to $20,000 in relief. That's specifically if you got aid that was based on the fact that you're poor, like I did. Change affects FFEL loans held by private banks but backed by the government. So, sorry, you're no longer eligible to switch your loan type. If you happen to fall into that category, it will affect 770,000 people. So all of these people that were like, yes, I'm going to get some of my money back from the government. Sorry, you just got fucked in the ass by the Biden administration. 6 Republican-led states sued in federal court seeking to stop the loan relief. One apparent concern is that lenders may sue and claim harm. Yeah, so this is for people who have certain types of loans, FFEL, they're termed. And you had, and Perkins loan qualified as well, which I don't know if any of mine are under that header. I'm not 100% sure. Basically, it's just going to get more convoluted, and you'll get a watered down version of it, if a version at all. And millions of people will be left out of the sun with regards to Biden's student loan debt forgiveness, which is really just an Inflation Production Act 2.0. So, yeah. At least hundreds of thousands of people. In the end, it'll probably be millions who would otherwise qualify. Sorry, even though the Biden administration didn't really give you any advice on how to switch the loan type to qualify for a bill that may not even go forward, you're screwed either way now, whether it goes forward or not. Huzzah to you! A lot of those people probably approve of Joe Biden right now. Unfortunately, because the legacy media likes to lie by omission, a lot of these people never hear about the fact that the money that they're waiting for to get back from the government is not actually coming their way. 770,000 people, at the very least. Again, that's probably an underestimation. I like the Daily Mail article here is partially right. The way they phrase it, it looks like it's a U-turn for the whole grift, for the whole vote buying scheme. It's only for certain people within that group. That's to avoid lawsuits. But they had to have seen it coming anyway. They already knew that this was going to occur. I don't even know that they're going to go forward with it at all. I have a feeling that they're going to retreat from the issue. So Biden buys a bunch of votes before the midterms to try to invigorate left-white, especially younger left-white voters, by promising them they'll get money. After the midterms, he'll blame the Republicans for blocking it, even though it was a judicial issue, number one, and even though he himself, his own Department of Education, is cutting almost 1 million people minimum out of that actual sum total of people who would get the debt relief. People will forget about that by the time that it becomes clear that they no longer have the House votes to pass anything. Biden, they may then attempt to proceed with an executive order. It'll probably be injuncted. Then they'll blame the activist courts that are led by Trump justices. That'll probably happen. So look forward to that. Official Styx-Hexen prediction. That'll probably end up taking place. And it'll be wonderful. And a lot of people will vote for Biden because they thought they were going to get free money. And then they'll never actually get it, either because they fall out, because they've got FFEL-style loans, Perkins sort of thing going on, or just because of the fact that, the bill never goes forward. There is no bill and or EO. And they'll complain about it, but it'll be too late. They'll already have voted for the Democrats. And it'll be funny because they were warned that it was a grift to begin with. Next news story. Setting expectations for the House in the 2022 midterms. This doesn't really talk about the Senate and gubernatorial races. To be clear, I'll reiterate. My prediction remains fundamentally unchanged. I think that in the midterms, the Republicans will pick up 1 Senate seat net, so they'll very narrowly control the Senate. They will pick up 2 additional gubernatorial slots. Wisconsin, I think, is now looking up, as well as Arizona. I think they pick up 2. In the House, I favor them 25 to 35 seat pickup. That's pretty good. It's not an enormous red wave, but it's enough as long as you also take the Senate. It's enough so that you'll see Cenk Uygur melt down on live stream, certainly on midterm night. If I had to give an over-under, I would say I would take the over on my own estimations. I would favor them to be more likely to pick up more House seats than that. And this goes through, and it talks about that. Most of it is statistical material, and be very careful of statistics. The basic premise, though, is that if you do end up having a swing in the final ballot, so it goes half a point towards the GOP that wasn't reflected in polling aggregates, half a point towards the Dems, etc. If it goes towards the Dems, it doesn't necessarily mean that they retain the House anyway, simply because of the plurality of seats that are Dem held but are toss-ups. Most of the toss-up seats are currently held by Democrats. Whereas if it goes in the other direction for the Republicans, a lot of those leaning seats then get thrown to the GOP. It's very, very lopsided. If you have any funny business going on with the polls, even a 1-point swing towards the GOP, they get like an additional 10 House seats. Whereas the Democrats only pocket a couple of seats because of that same differential if it happens to be in their favor. Kat is abusing her sister. If you could stop that while I'm live on air here. And winning by 6 points leads to smaller gains. Actually, I'll start this. One consequence in the near elimination of swing districts is that there are substantial levies on either side of the valley. The levy on the Democrat side is particularly steep. So in a universe where Republicans win the popular vote by 4 points, sweeping all the districts Biden won with 54%. And this is a little bit of a stretch, apples to oranges statistical comparison. But we'll just go with it, and we'll ignore it and not have an entire hour conversation about why that methodology maybe leaves something to be desired. Of the vote or less, the levy would break and the Republican majority would jump from 232 to 245 seats. Winning by 6 points leads to smaller gains as we work down the other side of the levy, leading to a majority of 252. I don't think they're going to have 6 points. I give a very conservative estimate of having a 2-point gap. And that's reasonable, historically speaking. It's more likely to be more for the GOP than less, but I'm going to go conservative on that. Pardon the pun. Of course, there are approximations. Republicans would probably win some seats beyond Biden plus 10 and lose some where Biden performed worse in this scenario. This is just to illustrate how the playing field works. The similar levy on the Republican side as well, although the slope is much gentler. Recall that sweeping the districts that were 52% Biden or less yields 224 seats. Sweeping those that were 51% Biden or less yields 219. Winning the 50% Biden or less seats would give Republicans 206 seats. If the cut point were 49% Biden or less, Republicans would win 198 seats, and so on forth. In the end, I expect that the GOP will take the House. I don't expect it to be particularly close. In the Senate, you've got much more of a 50-50 proposition. I've said this now for months. In the gubernatorial races, which are shaping up to be potentially a big mover within the midterms, again, GOP +2, at least in my estimation. RCP, by the way, has +2 for the Senate. I'm hesitant because they're counting Pennsylvania as one of those seats. There is no poll in which Mehmet Oz has led. To be clear, although the margin is not particularly far out, it's like I think +4 for Fetterman right now. Mehmet Oz is still the underdog. You would need a 5-point swing in order to surmount that total. I'm hesitant about applying a 5-point swing to the election. It would give Carrie Lake a seat in the gubernatorial slot in Arizona. She would win. It would give them the Alaska House race. It would give them the Wisconsin gubernatorial race. That's a pickup. It would give them various things, but it wouldn't give them Pennsylvania. Brian Sanborn. Hi, Sticks. Any chance we might see you and Liz on camera together soon? She seems to have a calming effect on you. Possibly. Yeah, that's whenever we decide to make a video together. Apparently, there is a poll general thread about me right now, somebody was saying. It's the same Salvation laptop thing. I think that's a secret Sticks fan that makes those threads, actually. They keep getting more and more frenetic. Anyway, next news story. Putin to host ceremony annexing occupied Ukrainian territories on Friday, the Kremlin says. Russia will on Friday begin formally annexing up to 18% of Ukrainian territory, with President Vladimir Putin expected to host a ceremony in the Kremlin to declare 4 occupied territories part of Russia. The ceremony would take place at Friday, which is today, literally, at 15 o'clock local time, 8 Eastern, or ET rather. In the Kremlin's St. George Hall, Putin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said, Putin will deliver a speech and meet with Russian-backed leaders of the 4 occupied regions on the sidelines of the ceremony, he added. Here's the problem. Number one, it's the referendums are only being held valid by Russia and by people who support Russia. The second problem is, of course, this is potentially an exacerbation of the military situation, because then Russia can say, well, the Ukrainians are invading our land. We've annexed it. Oh, goody, a yellow jacket has decided to join the show. Yeah, I've got a new co-host, Insectoid, in this case. The other problem is this, with regards to this. Russia, when it initially invaded Ukraine, started spewing off about denazification and things of that nature, and of the right of the people of those areas to self-determine. Annexation was not brought up. The original idea appears to have been more, hey, this eastern region speaks Russian. They want to have their own autonomy, so they want to be separate from Ukraine. But it didn't indicate that there was a desire to leave Ukraine and become Russia, like Crimea was annexed. That doesn't appear to have been originally something that was planned. So Vladimir Putin has continuously moved the goalposts with regards to the war goals here. Ukraine's not going to recognize it. NATO's not going to recognize it. The fighting will still continue in and around those areas. It's almost like a symbolic gesture when you really think about it. I can't imagine that anything good, though, is going to come of this. It could bring you closer to a more massive escalation of war, by the way. While I don't think that Vladimir Putin is going to use nukes on Ukraine, that would be difficult to pass. I think China would even condemn that. I don't think that even they would stomach it. While I don't think he uses tactical nukes, which is the biggest fucking goddamn meme of the modern age, I do think that he would deploy thermobaric weapons. I do think the father of all bombs might be dropped on a military installation, killing numerous civilians in the area because the blast is so large, and it would be catastrophic. I think that it's this kind of brinksmanship is not exactly helpful in the situation. Preamble, Evening Sticks. I was just wondering if you've thought about uploading your vids to New Tech first. I usually watch the first 2 on YouTube, then the exclusive on Rumble. I'd watch all 3 on Rumble if they came out at the same time. It's automatically collated to both Rumble and BitChute as well as Odyssey. So it goes in that particular order. However, it's gotten much faster, so wait 10 minutes and you'd be able to watch them all anyway. A Crafty Huragok. We still sinking Turkey on Pixel Planet? Yes, and of course, the irony that I'm going to be debating someone from the Young Turks on BTR. Again, there's a link that I shared out in the community tab on YouTube as well as on Twitter and elsewhere. You can take that, set your calendars for it because it's literally in 1 hour and 20 minutes. We will be debating the topic of unions with Jessica Burbank of the Young Turks on BTR with Lev hosting. Hismanai, Happy Clank. The Landlord Harassment Channel. Most people in Donbass consider themselves Russian. Well, that's just one particular region. And it doesn't matter. They're part of a different civic structure that happens to exert authority over its land area. And it's funny because people talk about like a national divorce and balkanization in relation to the United States. Why not with Russia? There are how many different semi-autonomous regions comprise Russia? I noticed that nobody's talking about their need to have a national divorce because people in some province may be maybe more reluctant to join in the war effort than others. Preamble, I am very impatient to get my sticks fix. J-Mill, Super Chats or Super Cats? We do have Super Cats. One of them even behaves mostly. Sigilstone 17 on Rumble. Have you discussed the trans spy yet? Don't forget to mention Bradley and Chelsea Manning is also a traitor. Yeah, Manning's free, by the way. Yes, I discussed that in my main video of the morning, but I'm also going to discuss it literally now because it's the next news story. Army's first trans officer indicted for spying for Russia. Yes, indeed. Major Jamie Lee Henry. So he's a major. I was getting up there in the brass. Got some medals and shit. The very first person in the U.S. military permitted. The Army granted Henry's request to officially change his name in accordance with the gender preference in 2015. Prior to Henry's case, identifying as a sex different than the one on one's birth certificate made a soldier unfit, warranting discharge. This is literally the first individual that managed to, in the brass at least, managed to get that clearance. And it turns out that he was an attempted Russian spy. I guess what happened is that records were accessed at Fort Bragg, medical records on Army personnel. They're classified. It's not top secret material, but it's classified material. And were collected together. And, this individual, Jamie Lee Henry, attempted to give it to the Russians. What he didn't know was that it wasn't a Russian agent. It was an FBI agent. So congrats, the FBI finally did its job. They did what we're paying them for once. And normally it's just entrapment and raiding random homes for no reason. They did good in this one. We'll give them a golf clap there. Golf clap for the FBI. And so, and his wife, by the way, indicted as well, similarly, for working at Gabriellen worked at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, referred to as Medical Institution 1 in the indictment, located in Baltimore, Maryland. So they accessed records and they stole patient health files. It's already illegal, even if it weren't military personnel, by the way. Already not supposed to be shared out under the medical privacy acts like HIPAA that are routinely ignored, but we'll get over that, and attempted to give it to the Russians. I found it interesting because wokeness is actually the flavor of the day with regards to the actual Russian espionage attempt, whereas we're always told that it's Trump. It's some evil far-righter. The Russians are promoting white supremacy in the U.S. military, and that's a big threat. Meanwhile, the first transgendered officer in the entire U.S. Army happens to have been working for the Russians, or at least attempted to work for them. Very interesting. I think wokeness is weakness when it comes to strategic things. The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor. My mom-in-law gave me her late husband's ties. That night I had sleep paralysis and experienced a shadow man strangling me. Dream or visitation? Dream. I don't believe in shadow people strangling people. They used to call it the nightmare, too, if it was like a waking dream where you ejaculate or something. They thought you just fucked a demon. Sebastian Monroe. What timing? I happen to be a member of the United Steelworkers Union after getting this job. Hopefully I can be of assistance and answer any questions. Excellent. I happen to have no problem with unions existing, but I do believe in the right to work. I believe that unions have generally outlived their usefulness, and I'm sure that we'll get into plenty of things like that. Very interested in the right to work and picking brains of the Young Turks columnist there. Watchman State, first time I'm up early enough to watch you live. Bujalisis 3, Sticks, you got me hooked on sugar-free Red Bulls. Very tasty. I don't like the sugar-free Red Bulls. I drink these. They're made in the Netherlands. It's literally just called 9. I don't know why. 9 ingredients. 9, there's not 9 calories in it. I think there's like 0 calories. There's 2 calories in it, I suppose. I drink them because they taste better. I don't like really sugary foods. It's not for health reasons. It's for the flavor. Maxwell Washules, what are your thoughts on Trump allegedly calling DeSantis phony? Also, did Pacman really call you too extreme? Yeah, Pacman had years ago had been queried by a viewer on a live stream about whether he would debate me and said no because I was an evil Nazi, basically. So that is true. That's confirmed. Trump allegedly calling DeSantis a phony. It comes from a book that was written by a CNN columnist. And unnamed sources have told me that's what he said about DeSantis. They ran with it. Much like with the Gorilla Channel. The Ahgal faces, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much Tim Piscinas is furiously master his bait in European and U.S. affairs? I don't know what you're saying there, dude. E100 Omega 123, your cars are relatively well behaved. I think you mean cats. I could never let my husky be a co-host because they'd scream and demand pettings. Yeah, huskies often, they seem like squealy dogs mostly. On Rumble, Clawsome. Hey, Sticks, just wanted to thank you for your consistency. You are my daily drop of sanity in the news. I'm your daily drop of insanity, I think. Power Guy Mark sent $2. No comment. Thank you. Next one. This is from the Financial Times. Again, the links are in the description. Most of them are archived, unless it's like a video or something. Cracks in the U.S. labor market are starting to appear. Employment conditions watched by the Fed may be weaker than headline data suggest. Yes, indeed. Most of this it's just boring statistics here. Not going to get much from it. If you go down, though, you'll see this. Sharp decline in average weekly hours worked. Yes, indeed. The earnings remaining roughly stable, post-COVID, of course, but the number of hours are declining. Why is this? It's because more and more people are working part-time. They can't find full-time employment. But they're still employed, so they count towards the unemployment numbers, even though the number has dropped precipitously. The average number is down by about an hour as far as that goes, if you look at this graph. To be clear, that is not the sign of a healthy and thriving economy. It's a sign that a lot of people can't find a full-time job, so they're working a couple of part-time jobs. They can only find a part-time job. You know, when you're in this particular market, that can happen. So they'd like to work full-time, but they can't. It also doesn't count underemployment, although that's not particularly looked at here. When all of these things come together, we're looking at a weak Bidenomic situation. We are in a recession. We are approaching stagflation conditions. The housing market is beginning to show signs of strain. The Fed is inadvertently making the problem worse. And Biden's happy, by the way, about that last part, because many months ago, you'll remember I reported back in April or something, he said his answer to inflation was to let the Fed do its job. What a blame shift when things go wrong, which he knew inevitably they would, because there's no way Bidenomics is going to help the economy. Oh, the Fed did it. I'm sorry that we're in a stagflationary recession. I told them to go more easy on the interest rates, but they didn't listen to me. They didn't listen to Uncle Joe, creepy Uncle Joe. And so now I'm sorry that half of you are unemployed. I'm sorry that things cost so much. I couldn't have seen this coming. I thought it was going to be transitory and stuff. Janet Yellen told me. Watchman State. Public unions demand tax money and manipulate spending outside legislative and democratic process and should be illegal. When taxpayer money is going towards any such group, it's a problem. I would also say, imagine you're in a union and you're not in a right to work state, so you're forced to be a member of the union depending on your form of employ. And the union bosses decide to donate to a candidate. What about all those union members who don't support the candidate? I think that it's a little bit fishy. I think that it's a money grift. Sebastian Monroe. Yes, we're a right-to-work state, but I took the benefits out of convenience. I don't like the politics of unions. Current president endorsed Biden. Yeah, the endorsement part I don't care about. It's when there's funding going on that it becomes a problem. Steady Eddie 1983, left then, we shouldn't fight wars for oil. Also the left, we should defend Taiwan because of superconductors. They want war so they don't lose their iPhones. Well, from a strategic standpoint, it actually would make sense to defend Taiwan. The problem is that we're not taking any realistic steps to do that. We should be encouraging Taiwan to gain a martial population, and we should station U.S. nuclear systems there. And if China chuffs about it, we say fuck off and go pound sand, go touch grass. If you want to deal with us, you're going to have to give us an absolute guarantee that Taiwan won't be invaded, and we're going to form a military alliance with them. And we're going to recognize them as a sovereign state, by the way. We could just recognize Taipei as the lord of all of China and go back to the way things were before the mid-1970s, and China would never dare to invade. It doesn't matter how much manpower you have when your Navy is not capable of matching the U.S. Navy. There would never be a war. A well-armed Taiwanese population, plus a direct alliance, would negate any possibility of war. We already are allied with other nations in the region. We've got an alliance with Japan. Why can't we have an alliance with anyone else that we want? Preamble. Is there a Discord or something similar where clankers congregate? There is apparently, but I don't use Discord. Open question to the chat, since you're probably too much of a boomer to figure out how such things work. You are correct. Corto Maltese, good news and bad news. Good news, I can donate more now. Bad news, I work 7 days a week for the foreseeable future. I love industrial maintenance. Well, at least you're getting good work hours. Cyberbeep, Clank from Arkansas. What do you think about Sarah Huckabee Sanders? I want to like her, but not researched enough to know if she's fit for governorship. She's a little evangelical for my tastes. A little bit moralistic. Better than most of the Democrats that are out there, but I have problems with a lot of the GOP crowd, including some members of MAGA. Myra Flores is constant. I like Myra Flores. I mean, if I was down there in her constituency, I'd vote for her too. But she Jesuses it up like she's fucking in the 1990s. E100 Omega 123. I live in Texas, and every business I see is hiring. My own work is requiring mandatory overtime because we're short on personnel. Yes, everyone, you can take the link in the description on either platform, as well as pinned at the top of chat if you're watching on YouTube. We are still sinking Turkey into the briny deep on Pixel Planet. That's in the light blue. That's the ocean color. Also, you can help the Greeks out. They're in the medium blue over there. It's like the same color as on their flag. They keep getting griefed by Turkish streamers. It's not doing too well, though. I mean, we're outmatching them 10-1 at least, so... We're just, it's just for the lulz, though. I'm no longer making one-off, like, raid videos for Pixel Planet because it was pissing too many people off. Next news story. Tucker Carlson's shoddy case linking U.S. to alleged Nord Stream sabotage. Let me stop you right there, Washington Post, because it's the Washington Post, so much of what they post, is bullshit. First and foremost, it's no longer an alleged sabotage. The Russians say it was sabotage. The U.S. says it was sabotage. The Swedes say it's sabotage. Ukrainians are saying it's sabotage. The world is united in the belief that the Nord Stream pipeline was deliberately targeted. There's no longer really a debate to have about that. You can't really explain near simultaneous blasts on both pipelines, including apparently a fourth leak that's been generated probably by seismic shocks or something. You can't really explain that by a random act of God. Unless there was a giant squid out there that's been horrendously mutated by radioactive waste and now it has to drink natural gas in order to survive. I don't think that that's the case. Here's what I wanted to talk about, though, here. And, of course, they have the picture of him laughing with Donald Trump. Of course, evil Donald. So, naturally, you shouldn't trust this dude. Why would you claim that the case against the U.S. in regards to Nord Stream was shoddy, but the original reporting, which was very, very quick, I will note, that links Russia to it, that's obviously sacrosanct. That's not shoddy at all. That's probable. I'll say it again. What possible reason would Russia have to scuttle Nord Stream? Unless it's because it's about to annex part of Ukraine and go completely crazy and start dropping thermobarics on civilian targets, which could happen. Unfortunately, we could be on the eve of destruction because of this sort of thing. I'm still skeptical. I'm hopeful that something can be worked out, but it is getting worse. To be clear, things in Ukraine are getting worse. They're getting very dangerous. Why is it, though, that effectively only as a symbolic gesture would be why Russia would do that. There's no other purpose because they can already shut the pipeline off. Why is it that when somebody claims absolutely, like on CNN, well, Putin probably did it, he would do something like this, he's trying to freeze the Europeans, which he's already shut the gas off to. They're already freezing, so he just destroyed his own capability of using it as diplomatic leverage. Why is that more meaningful and more trustworthy than saying, hey, if the United States did it, there are multiple reasons it could do it. To try to fuck with the Russian economy, to try to prevent European nations from backing out of confrontation with Russia, to keep funding Ukraine, et cetera, to get egg on Putin's face by making it look like he can't defend his infrastructure, and effectively having said prior months ago, and Biden did, we can do whatever we want. There will be no Nord Stream if you invade, and now that's happened. It's been damaged beyond repair, at least for some time. Why would that be a shoddy case and the case against Russia is ironclad, is what I would ask. Of course, the answer is the case against Russia is not ironclad. We don't know who did this. It could have been Ukrainian saboteurs. It could have been the Kremlin. It could have been DC. It could have been the British. The British are like, we already have to suffer. Those continental Europeans can share in the suffering. Could have been the French. Could have been the Macedonians, for all we know. Croatians could have done it. I'm a song, but are the Beastie Boys saying it's sabotage? Power Guy Mark, please do a spot on Zuckerberg's 2020 election influence and tax evasion in the process in order to suck up to George Soros. Yeah, I'm not going to bother because Meta is failing and Zuckerberg has become an afterthought. Like, there's going to come a point at which Facebook is less powerful than Twitter at this point. Twitter will probably last longer, even if it doesn't get the deal from Elon Musk going. Facebook is just boomer book. Instagram is just for a bunch of people to whore themselves out and take, bullshit selfies. Hey, look at the sunrise. I'm not actually looking at it. All I wanted to do is take a picture of it to show other people so they can look at it on their pitiful screen instead of going and seeing it for themselves for free. It's pathetic. I have nothing but derision for Instagram. It's the worst of all of these sites. Preamble. Playing leftist advocate, is there any chance Putin was under pressure from domestic influences to reopen it and blew it to take it off the table? No, it's possible. Or maybe some oligarch ordered the blowing up because they didn't want Putin restarting it or something like that. But that's court intrigue on a level that I don't think we have any evidence for. Jack's regret. Who are some of your sources? Who does Styx read for his news? Substack? Clanking Minds want to know. Thank you for your work. Much of it comes from news tips from people like you. It's like PBS here. I've got my DMs open on Twitter to accept news tips. I've got that pinned actually as my comment. And it works. It really helps. About half of all the news that I cover in these live streams is because of news tips people send into me. I've gotten several hundred people. For example, I mentioned on the other live stream the other day that I was wondering about gas prices. A huge number of people have showed me their local gas prices, in some cases going so far as to take a picture of the pumps themselves. Beyond that, there's 4chan, politically incorrect there, has various news on it sometimes. And I use RCP. Pamela Kilponen, the new Norway-Poland Baltic pipeline that just coincidentally opened today. Germany should learn from Poland. It's me. Turkey did it over Pixel Planet. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, maybe Turkey blew up the pipeline. Like, hey, there's less shit flowing through our country now. They're trying to route it around the North Sea. Fuck this shit. Send a submarine in. Maybe it was the North Koreans. Oh, I don't know. But I'm just wondering why the legacy media would say, well, the case against the U.S. obviously is shoddy. Everyone else is still a suspect, but Biden would never do something that he literally expressed a willingness to do. Moungie, given the past few election cycles, it wouldn't be crazy to see 5-point swings with the awful polling method we've seen. That's almost the margin of error anymore. It's possible, but I don't calculate that into my predictions. I prefer to be, quote unquote, pardon the pun, conservative with my estimations. I don't want to get people all amped up and then it's like a dribble of red support or something. I'd rather go in the other direction and be surprised and pleased when the GOP picks up 50 House seats or something. Now we've got an epic gaffe, but it's not Joe Biden this time. Link in the description. You should definitely watch this short video. It's only 13 seconds long. Kamala Harris stating that we are allied with the Republic of North Korea. She forgot which side of the DMZ that she was on. She went to the DMZ and talks to, I don't know, the South Korean leadership or whatever. It's not going to solve anything. Basically, they just don't want to send Biden because he's so incoherent and he tends to make a fool of himself. So like, well, Kamala will also make a fool of herself, but at least she's more coherent. So we'll just send the VP to Asia on this Asian trip, goes to Japan, etc. They had this one picture. I thought it was funny. The leftoids were crowing about it, where she's at the table there with the Japanese dignitaries. And there's some comment like, oh, here we see Kamala Harris, the strong, empowered woman at tables full of men. Look at her. This is legendary. This is epic. This is newsworthy. Look at her lord over these lesser creatures with penises. And trying to, woman it up, and it was real cringe, like everything the left posts. This is a significant gaffe, though, and it's not surprising. I'll tell you why. Kamala Harris was chosen for her job because of the color of her skin and her gender, and for no other reason. She had no further qualifications. What has she done that distinguished her from any of the other people that were running? It would have been better to have Buttigieg as the running mate. It's because of the fact that she appealed to the leftoid idpol crowd, despite being a tough on crime or even worse than Biden, despite having been the scummy prosecutor that would put you in jail for 10 years because you had an ounce and a half of marijuana. She was considered the woke possibility for a VP candidate, and also younger. And she looks the part. She counterbalances the old, muddled, incoherent man from the silent generation that just sort of doesn't do anything. He's just sort of like a fucking shambling vegetable. She, meanwhile, is more outgoing when they allow her to speak, which is always a bad idea. But then she does stupid shit like this. I wonder if the South Korean media picked up on this and laughed about the fact that Kamala Harris forgot what side of the border she was on. Probably not. Meximan and cheese. My unconventional way to stop the war. Putin lightly suggests all the billionaires' bunkers in New Zealand aren't as safe as they think. Yeah, but he's not. I don't think he's going to nuke anything, so. It's me, Kamala, platforming dictators. Mungi, modern polling is to form public opinion, not to inform. Yeah, there's definitely push polling going on. That's true. If the goal is to push people in the leftoid direction, it has failed miserably. If anything, it goes in the opposite direction, it seems. Great Dong Leggins. Sarah Huckabee Sanders' opponent, Democrat Chris Jones, received a $100,000 donation from Gavin Newsom. Definitely not voting Democrat in Arkansas. Yeah, shouldn't there be a law against individuals from entirely different states that are already in office organizing funds for people in other states? I would think that'd be at the very least, it's shoddy. What's this I hear? All the leftoids are always talking about getting the big money out of politics. Well, $100,000 is not a small amount of money. Joker 1, consider this. KGB agent turned president turns off the pipeline and EU blames him. He blows it up and the EU blames the USA. They have other pipelines to Europe, causing havoc between NATO allies. Yeah, but no havoc has been caused. It's just solidified NATO further. Causing havoc is what the KGB does. That's all they do. You have a potato in the White House that threatened to do just that. KGB saw an opportunity. It's a possibility. Yeah, I mean, he got himself into this mess. If the U.S. gets blamed for it, then Biden's own statements don't really help to evince your innocence with regards to that. I would agree. And now the last news story here. This is just a funny one. David Hogg tweeting out the other day, no right, including the Second Amendment, is absolute. Oh, let's parse this apart. I replied, interesting take on the right of women to vote. Or ending slavery, or the right to due process. No right is absolute. The fact is that people like David Hogg only treat the First and the Second Amendments with this particular line. They never say this about the right to not quarter troops in your home. Oh, well, that's not a limitless right. Under certain circumstances, the U.S. government should be able to annex your barn and put troops up in it, or to annex your basement. I don't see any liberal arguing that. The right to privacy is generally held as sacrosanct also. They don't want the government going through your emails, even though emails didn't exist back then. Right to a speedy, fair public trial. The right to no excessive bail. Hell, they think it's excessive bail at this point to even have bail, even for serious crimes. I disagree with them on the latter part, although the former proposition is perfectly fine to me. Speeding tickets, too many of them you didn't pay? I don't think the person needs to be held on bail. Just to be clear. There are other better ways to do it. The 10th Amendment. What about the rights of states, as duly laid down by numerous SCOTUS decisions? Does that suddenly mean nothing? Again, but what about the right of women to vote? Okay, so that right is not absolute, according to David Hogg. The right not to be enslaved. I would point out, technically, on the latter proposition, he's semi-right, because, of course, slavery is still allowed in the U.S. if you're in prison. Just to be clear, you can be compelled to work on the road crew. If you're currently a felon, if you're in prison, the abolition of slavery doesn't directly apply to you. You're effectively enslaved by the state. We might want to revise that part at some point, because I don't think that people should be forced to work 10-hour days printing out license plates when we could have private companies do it and pay people better for that. The fact, though, is that this particular line, used in defense of anti-gun arguments, is a very, very weak one. In fact, I can't really think of a weaker argument for gun control other than declaring that the right is unilaterally not absolute. The fact is that it is. It's very explicit. It's more explicit than most of the constitutional amendments, even the ones like with slavery. Yeah, okay, you can't be enslaved unless the state is doing it to punish you. Well, then that's rendered non-absolute. It can still enslave you under certain circumstances. The right of religion. There's a counterbalance in the First Amendment. Congress can't make a law respecting an establishment of religion. It also can't make one preventing the free exercise thereof. There's a counterbalance. There's less absolutism. Second Amendment's the most explicit of all. The people have the right to keep and bear arms. The militia and that right shall not be infringed. It's as simple as that. It's 2 fucking sentences. It's very, very easy and to understand. Assuming that you understand, of course, the parlance used in the late 1700s. If you're like David Hogg and you're in Harvard because you're David Hogg as opposed to any particular merit and finesse, you probably don't understand this. You don't have very great linguistic comprehension. The other day, he was bragging about his FBI daddy, his glowing one daddy, giving him a submachine gun to clean and play around with when he was in grade school. So he's not exactly the brightest bulb. And I understand when he's doing this, he's found his niche. His niche is people that hate guns. He's not going to say sane things. He's going to say things that go along with that particular niche because he wants people to give him money. That's basically what it boils down to. Some people still pretend that he's still a teenager and you're not supposed to criticize him. Remember when people were banned on certain platforms if they were critical of David Hogg back when he was still 17? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Alejandro Munoz, I like asking people about how they see the near future. How about you, Styx? How do you see the future? The more biased, the better. I think it depends entirely on the midterms at the moment. We've got one future in which we lock down the Biden admin, preventing further damage. Things probably begin to calm down, although there will be economic havoc either way for years to come. Just to be clear, I am predicting that. Or there's a honkening or something like that that goes on, and neoliberalism continues unabated, and we slip further towards ideological globalistic slavery. Let's hope we move in the direction of the Italians as opposed to the direction of the French. Preamble. Interesting thing is that more succinct and apparent a right is, the less it needs to be shouted from the rooftops. You almost need convolution for rights to exist. That's interesting. The more straightforward the amendment, the more liberals will hate it, it seems, as well. Joker 1, should be the law that you can't donate to a politician you can't vote for. I could only vote for and donate to those in my congressional district, POTUS, and my state senate. Yeah, that makes sense. And keep every bit of foreign money out as well. They're never going to take foreign money out of the U.S. political system, though. That's never going to happen. They enjoy it. It's money. They love it. Anyway, I'm going to go off quite a bit early here. No more super chats, by the way, please. Still over 4,000 at peak. I'm going to keep it short because I want to rest my voice up before my live appearance. Again, there is a link that's out there on Twitter. In fact, I'll just take the fucking link really quickly before everyone goes. I'll grab this link. And this will also, I believe Lev is also planning to go live on Rumble also. I'm posting the link to the, that's not the right one. What the fuck? Alrighty here. Yeah, I'm posting the YouTube live link. This is the YouTube link for the live stream. You can go to BTR on Rumble as well and show support if you prefer to watch on Rumble. In less than an hour, I will be debating Jessica Burbank of the Young Turks on the topic of unions on Break the Rules, which is Lev's show, Lev Polyakov. Stephen Bordelme, the right to an abortion is not absolute. The right to healthcare is not absolute. If you would say that, their collective heads would explode. Yeah, every right is absolute when it's clearly legally not. And if it clearly legally is, then it's up for some debate. Seems to be their bottom line. Oh, people talking about Lizzo. I don't give a shit about that. I'm not offended at some sassy, self-entitled multimillionaire playing a 200-year-old flute. I just don't care. She didn't shove it up her ass or anything like that, so, whatever. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun debate, and you can keep going over onto Pixel Planet to continue, ironically, of course, since I'm debating a member of the Young Turks, keep sinking Turkey into the ocean. They did do an Armenian genocide on Pixel Planet too. They completely enveloped the entire country. I see that Kurdistan is also reforming now. Whether or not we wipe that into the ocean, well, we'll wait and see. I don't know exactly what we're doing. Anyway, that's about all. Peace out.